at a Metropole TVKE across all your social media platforms. If you're just joining us, you are watching Metropole Television, your 24/7 business channel in Eastern Central Africa. My name is Simba Elijah Charles Kiage. This is your official sector trends. Let's introduce what we're getting into this morning. Now, Gateway Real Estate Africa, as a GREA, gave a donation of 4,328,000, that's about 40,000 US dollars, to Build Her Kenya, the only female-focused organization registered to sit for the prestigious National Industrial Training Authority exams. Now, GREA co-founder and CEO Greg Pearson, while giving the donation, expressed his belief that the contribution would support enrollment of women to undergo training and sit for the industry exam. Now, Bilha noted that the contribution would boost their training capacity to churn out industry players to contribute to higher quality, productivity, and increased efficiencies in real estate. Now, joining us this morning on a Business AM to talk about the donation as well as Build Her Kenya and empowering women in the construction industry, it is Kawira Njogu, who is the head of placement at Build Her Kenya. Ms. Njogu, good morning.
Good morning, Elijah.
Happy to have you around. Let's first start this conversation like this. Who is Build Her Kenya?
Build Her is a non-profit social enterprise that started its operations in 2018 with three main focus areas. One of them is to provide high-value, in-demand skills to women, particularly vulnerable women. And then secondly, it's actually to directly link those skills to the industry, namely contractors and fabricators, to enable us to support them to fill the skills gaps in the sector. And thirdly, it's advocacy. And advocacy revolves around supporting industry players, including regulators such as NCA, that is the National Construction Authority. And we do this in different ways by providing data that enables them to understand how we can better integrate women into construction, to understand why women would like to participate in construction, and also to be able to think about factors that we need to consider that are very fundamental and are often overlooked that enable us to integrate women into construction, such as separate toilets for men and women on sites, and personal and protective equipment which fits women and is not just for men. To ensure safety and safeguarding on sites.
Pretty much. You've started the conversation on a very key note there. And I would like, before we continue, so we go back a bit, because you mentioned very important points. I mean, somebody's going to ask you, when you talk about vulnerable women, who are these women, Ms. Njogu, this morning? And how do you go about identifying these women and then saying they fit to come work with us, or for us to sort of prep them to go into the industry?
That's an interesting question, Elijah. And we have a very unique way of recruiting beneficiaries of vulnerable women. We work very closely with CBOs, that's community-based organizations that are deeply rooted in the catchment areas or the areas that we identify, often informal settlements. And so for us, collaborations are very important. So we work hand in hand with these CBOs to recruit these women. And the women are aged 18 to 35 years. However, we do recruit women who are above 35. So we could have 40, 42-year-old women who we identify have the commitment, the focus, and the passion to participate and to join the program. They're often single mothers with an average of 4 dependents. However, the number could go up to 9, 10 dependents, majorly children, but the dependents will also include siblings and parents or other relatives. You'll also find that with this demographic, they earn under $3 a day, and this income is actually intermittent. It doesn't come in every day. So that's actually the demographic we deal with, and the ladies are often semi-educated. So you'll find ladies who've reached class 8. Some have reached Form 2. Others have completed Form 4. So often semi-educated women, yes.
Then somebody would like to ask you, why the construction industry? Did Build Her Kenya say, well, there are opportunities for them in the construction industry? Is that a potent area for these vulnerable women to go into?
Yes, very much so. It's and that's a pertinent point or question you raise, because the construction sector is one of the fastest growing sectors, not only in Kenya but globally, aside from STEM. And so you find that for this sector, there are very many opportunities that are coming up every day. These women have a great need to pursue careers in this industry, the same way men participating in this sector are hungry to seek just an opportunity and an opportunity to grow. It's also an exciting environment to work in because they learn something new every single day. And given that opportunities arise every other day, there are new opportunities arising, and at the same time, the sector provides the opportunity to grow in skills very fast. Therefore, the income also grows very fast. As long as someone is focused, they're able to grow in skills and have a commensurate income that grows very fast with the skills growth.
Pretty much. So let's touch on the last point there, under advocacy. How far are we in sort of making the ground level in this industry when we look at where the men and women are? How far are we, and can you talk to us about some of the advances you've made in that area under advocacy?
Now, when you look at this particular sector, and it's not just unique to Kenya, it's predominantly a male field. So you find that it's still unfortunately an unequal playing field. But what we say is there's room for women's participation. When we come close to home and we look at research, for example, that NCA had done and other sector players, you will find that we are only meeting 3% of the need, what is actually required in the sector. And so you actually find that out of that 3% of that need, it is a very small proportion of women that are engaged in the sector.
Yes, so Mr. Yogo, I would like to cut you short there. I don't mean to, but when you look at that number, that's quite a low number. What would you say is the contributing factor to that? Is it culture generally that has told us that in the construction industry women are not supposed to belong there because probably that the area is quote unquote tough?
Yes, it's about perceptions. There are stereotypes. There's a conscious and unconscious bias that's been created around the roles. Generally in society also, we talk about the sociocultural roles and where the men are meant to provide, and with regard to construction, it's considered a hard trade, a hard sector, and therefore that women may not be able to perform. And given the sociocultural rules, then often the consideration is made that they should be the homekeepers, holding the house. But we are trying to challenge that because for us, our mission is to empower women through construction, and our vision actually entails involving the participation of women in this sector so that they're involved in the urban development, in the development of our cities and communities, to participate and ensure that we have a dignified construction done in a dignified way. And so Build Her has actually made strides, and we're very data driven, and we innovate and learn from the data. And so what we do is we use that data, of course, for advocacy. We place these women on contractor sites, often NCA 1 to NCA 4, as well as fabricator sites. And part of our role is to change that mindset, to change male mindsets. And we're already doing that. We've already received feedback from contractors, from fabricators, who are saying that the ladies' productivity is high, they're valuable contributors. And this is what we are saying. it's not about men versus women, but it's more about saying create the space, let us support each other to provide safe and secure environments where these women can participate alongside the men, because we all have complementary skills to contribute and move the agenda forward of enhancing quality and efficiencies on sites, because there is a space for that.
Pretty much. All right, let's talk about this donation that you got then from Great Way Real Estate. Where is it going to go toward directly? And also talk to us about this exam. That is the authority exam. How important is it? And who's eligible to do this exam? And once you have done this exam and then having deemed as to have passed it, what opportunities are open to you separate from somebody who's not done this exam?
Allow me to backtrack a bit and say we really appreciate that donation that Gateway Real Estate Africa has actually given to us.
Yes.
And for us, this relationship is valuable, as are others, because collaboration, as I mentioned earlier, is key for us, or key to us.
Yes.
And so for us, it's a milestone in our process, because then we realize that we are aligning to growing industry demands and targets. And in this case, we are actually aligning to Gateway Real Estate Africa's targets and ESG pillars of equal pay for equal work, ensuring that women participate in this sector, and of course, providing skills and opportunities to a demographic or group of people that would otherwise not get access to this. Now, to go directly to your question on the impact of the donation, Elijah, we are finding out, or we are seeing that contractors, fabricators, construction industry players are realizing that there's a growing need to prioritize artisan education. And for that reason, we say artisan education, formal artisan education is important, because in the sector, that's the only way to enhance efficiencies and quality on sites. The trend has been that because often the participants, the artisans in the sector, don't have the means to access this formal artisan education, then what often happens is that you find substandard workmanship on sites.
Yes.
So what this donation is doing is contributing to our training to ensure that we continue to provide this skills training to these artisans who would otherwise not be able to afford it, and thereby critically fill this gap that exists in the sector in terms of skills. Additionally, this donation then continues to enhance our training, because we are able to access the tools which are critical, the equipment, the resources and other materials that ensure that we provide a high quality training. Because for us, it's not about numbers, but it's about the quality and ensuring we meet the requirements of the contractors and fabricators in the industry. And therefore, this donation is useful to feeding our training to support that process.
Pretty much. It's interesting that you're mentioning numbers, but from anybody looking at this headline, you will say, well, then is it going to also improve the capacity for you to bring in more women who can then be exposed to this training?
Yes, definitely. Because what's happening is once we meet or we offer a solution in regard to the gap that exists or the challenges that the industry is facing. And once the ladies start working on site, which of course is already happening, there's already an impact that's being communicated by the industry about the difference they're seeing in quality and efficiencies. And therefore, we are having an increased traction, increased interest in the work that we are doing, and therefore a great need for the ladies to work in the sector. And importantly, the manner in which we started the program was based on data we collected again from the industry. So when we talk about the need and numbers, the industry had communicated to us that there are different trade areas where there are skills gaps, and those are the areas in which we train. So we are very industry driven, we're very demand driven. And so we have carpentry and joinery that we train our artisans in. We also have painting, plastering, tiling, gypsum partitioning, which is already being rolled out currently. And there are also other areas of need that have been identified, such as welding, plumbing, and electrical installation and masonry, which we'll be rolling out. So when you talk about numbers and the need, we've identified the need and we're very deliberate about how we are rolling this out. You had also asked me about the exam, the National Industrial Training Authority exam. Once our artisans complete the training, and our training comprises of an intensive 4-month rigorous training exercise, and that's in the trade areas that I've mentioned. And this includes certain pertinent areas such as safety standards, interpreting technical drawings, theory, but fundamentally also workshop practicals. And the practical bit is whereby we simulate the construction environment and ensure that our artisans are able to perform to meet these requirements. So after the 4 months, which actually, sorry, I'll take you back. Within that 4 months, 60% is the technical training.
Yes.
But then there's also a very important component, which is 40%, and that is life skills, work readiness, fitness and body conditioning. There's the aspect of nutrition, mental health coaching, because the demographic we have has come from a background of trauma and hardship. And so that is also very important. And for us, this life skills is also a very integral part of our training because it enables us to produce a well-rounded, high-performing individual
yes.
who can succeed in any environment, and additionally, a professional artisan.
Yes.
And so after the 4-month training, we have artisans who enter the sector at semi-skilled level, which for us is a value add we also give to the sector, because we are saying, we are saving you the investment in training. Instead of getting an artisan who comes to sites that you have to train from scratch, an unskilled individual, we are giving you a semi-skilled individual, thereby saving you time and costs and that investment in training. And this is a highly productive worker who industry players have confirmed performs and picks up very fast on site. Now, after the 4-month training, we place them in industry for 8 months. And we therefore build employment partnerships with contractors and fabricators to enable us to place these women in construction. But it's not just about placing them to provide them with employment opportunities. As we said, we are offering a solution to contractors and fabricators. And we also offer a value add again to these same contractors and fabricators who are employment partners. We offer capacity building on site, free of charge, based on the specific needs of each of these industry players, each of these partners. At the end of those 8 months is where NITA comes in, because the ladies then sit for the National Industrial Training Authority exam, and it's a certification, and they first sit for grade 3. But because we support them to continue building themselves and growing, then we also support them to also take grade 2, grade 1, and continue advancing upwards.
Yes.
So this is actually an addition. Experience is one thing, which is very important for them to build on sites, and that's why we have the placement process, which goes through the 8 months, because it's very critical for them to get exposed. But this certification is also another layer, feather in their cap, because what it does is you'll find that given the stereotypes and the conscious and unconscious barriers that already exist on sites, when a lady goes to the site, over and beyond being asked if she has experience, when she says she has some certification, instead of being dismissed, it draws attention to her.
True.
And probably the supervisor says, what?
Indeed.
Really? And there's that perspective then ingrained that this lady took time, dedication, and focus to work her way up to ensure that she got certification, in addition to exposing herself to site. So that's the additional layer and the additional value that that certification gives over and beyond someone else who doesn't have it.
Pretty much. All right, as we come close to the end of this conversation, somebody will be interested to know whether the COVID-19 pandemic has worsened the situation for majority of the vulnerable women, or it has driven more women into that vulnerable position. And so, are you likely, or have you seen a spike in the numbers that you're admitting now in that criteria? And how many are you able to take in per year at Bilha? And is this capacity now going to be improved? And to what extent is it going to be improved by this latest donation?
Thanks for that. Now, COVID, we were no exception to the repercussions of COVID.
Yes.
Last year particularly, COVID, of course, affected the industry as it did other sectors. And what that did was it affected 90% actually of our placements at that point in time.
Yes.
Because, of course, there was regulation that was going on sites, given the adherence to COVID protocols.
Yes.
So what that means is for those women who are working, who are employed in the industry, as well as other artisans, not just the women, they had to stop working and they had to now stay at home or try to see how else to eke out a living in the meantime. So it did affect us at the time. And unfortunately, with the statistics, which you may have already seen going on around, there are those women who started experiencing a higher level of gender-based violence, which these women have already been exposed to previously because of that period of going back home, returning to partners you're otherwise maybe separated from. So there were those issues, the traumatic issues that were coming up, or other family-related issues such as increased pregnancies and other situations such as that occurred. So that affected us. It created some attrition last year, but given the scenario, yes, of course, there's an increased need. For those ladies who were engaged last year, who were affected by it, we obviously had to find a way to continue to engage them in the program, revisit the process, because even for us, it affected us, and for a period, we had to slow down with our operations. But we were able to pick that up, and what we did is we also provided support to the community in terms of offering some wellness packages just to support them during that difficult period.
Yes.
But to answer your question about an increased need, yes, and the need is always there. In fact, what we find out when we recruit the ladies is that we always have an oversupply, so to speak, and a higher interest than what we can take in per cohort. So currently, with every year, we have at least, we have 150 to 180 women, and we are projecting that number to increase based on the increase with the training tracks, because per cohort, we have about 30 women. We started out with 50, but based on our data and analysis, we worked out an average of 30 women per intake, which means 60 women with 2 concurrent cohorts running. If you're talking about carpentry and joinery and painting, the painting training track as an example, running concurrently. So we do have 150 to 180 women who will be having at a minimum per year, and that number will continue to increase. Now, we'll be able to meet that need because actually what we have within our strategy is that within the next 2 years, we'll be setting up a new training location, which means we'll be having 2 training locations running concurrently. So if you're talking about 150 women, if you double that number, that's 300 women.
Yes.
Yes, per year at a minimum. And enabling us to set up at 2 different training locations will enable us to strategically continue to locate ourselves to be able to meet the need of other women in a different geographic area. And of course, we have very ambitious plans because we aim to continue expanding first within Nairobi and then eventually to other counties and beyond.
Pretty much. Ms. Kabwira Njogu, thank you very much for taking your time this morning to speak to us here at Metropole Television. You are now officially a friend, so should you have any other development, you know who to call.
Thank you so much, Elijah.
All right.
Have a good day.
We take a short break. Once we come back, you might not open a bank account if you have no NHIF. We'll be telling you exactly how that is possible once we come back here on New Economic Review.